You aren't an expert. At least that's what you keep telling yourself every time someone asks for your help. You think you're just being helpful. You call it common sense. But you're actually suffering from a psychological blind spot that is making you invisible to your own value. It's like trying to see yourself in a steamed up bathroom mirror. You know you're there, but the details are a blur. You think because a solution is easy for you, it must be easy for everyone. You've honed your judgment for so long that you now treat it like walking or talking. It's automatic. You've made your genius invisible to yourself. While you're waiting for your big idea to strike, you're stepping over high-value opportunities, the everyday asks that are landed in your hands and slipping through your fingers like dry sand. In psychology, this is called the false consensus effect. In the original 1977 study, researchers asked students to walk around campus wearing a sandwich board that said, "Eat at Joe's." Those who agreed thought 62% of others would also say yes. Those who refused thought 67% would also say no. We literally project our own internal reality onto the world. If you know how to do something, your brain votes that everyone else does too. Pair that with the Dunning-Kruger effect. While we usually use this to describe overconfident beginners, the real issue is at the other end of the curve. The top 25% of performers in the original Cornell study consistently underestimated their rank. Because the test was easy for them, they assumed it was easy for everyone. You are mathematically prone to underestimating your own value. If that blind spot sounds familiar, hit subscribe. We're clearing the steam on how to turn these hidden skills into an actual future, and I don't want you to miss the next step. So how do we clear that steamy mirror so we can see our own value clearly? I didn't find the solution in a textbook. I found it in the kitchen on a random Tuesday morning. When my kids moved out, they called me constantly with endless, seemingly simple questions, but they weren't actually calling for an answer. Most of the time, they could have guessed it. They were calling for certainty. "Dad, how do I fix this? Dad, what's that noise? Dad, how do I fry an egg?" To me, it was just a 30-second chat. To them, it was the difference between a broken car and getting to work on time. I realised I was answering everyday asks all day long, both at home and at work. And I bet you are too. So how do we clear this blind spot? We don't do it by brainstorming. Most of us are terrible at being objective about ourselves. We do it by gathering evidence. For the next 7 days, I want you to stop overanalyzing and start passively observing. I call this the everyday asks method. Step 1. The catch. Notice the question mark. Every time someone asks you anything, from a colleague to a stranger, write it down. Don't judge it, from the very smallest ask to the much rarer big question. If a neighbour asks how to get a red wine stain out of a rug, a stranger asks where the shop is, or a friend asks if a nappy is fitted correctly, write it down. Do it at work, when you're out and about, and when you're at home. So why don't we notice these little questions now? Because we've been conditioned to think work is what happens when we're focused on a task, and interruptions are what get in the way. But for an expert, the interruption is the work. That moment when someone bothers you is the exact moment they've identified your value for you. We're looking for the moments where the world leans on your brain. Step 2. The search engine test. For every task, ask yourself, could they have Googled this? In 2026, the answer is almost always yes. So why did they ask you? In 2026, information is everywhere, but trust is scarce. If you Google how to fix a boiler, you get 4 million results. This leads to what psychologist Barry Schwartz calls the paradox of choice. In a famous study, researchers set up a display of 24 different gourmet jams. A lot of people stopped to look, but only 3% actually bought one. When they switched to a display of just 6 jams, sales increased by tenfold. Too much information creates analysis paralysis. People don't ask you because they're lazy. They ask you because they are drowning in options. They want you to be the 6 jams. They want you to narrow the world down to the one thing that works. Your value isn't your knowledge, it's your ability to curate the world for them. They didn't want information, they wanted certainty. They wanted to stop searching and start doing. Your judgment is a shortcut that saves them 3 hours of tutorials. That time you save them, that is the definition of value. By day 7, you'll have a list, but before you look at it, your subconscious is going to start screaming, "Yes, but those are all exceptions." This is the spotlight effect. In a 2000 study, students were told to wear an embarrassing Barry Manilow t-shirt into a room. The students were convinced that 50% of the people in the room would notice the shirt. In reality, only 20% did. We overestimate how much others are looking at us, but we underestimate how much they are looking to us. We think they are judging our amateur advice while they're actually grateful for the help. Let's look at the other lies your brain tells you. It's just common sense. This is caused by expert blindness. This is a biological efficiency. As you master a skill, your brain builds specialised neural pathways that require less glucose and less energy to fire. Because you don't feel the burn of effort, your brain decides the output is free, it's easy. It's common sense to you because your brain finds it so easy. To them, it's a mystery. If it were common sense to them, they wouldn't have interrupted their day to ask you. They only asked because we're friends. Proximity bias is probably at work here. We assume convenience is the only reason people ask us. But think about it. You have plenty of nice friends. You would never ask to look at your car, the tyres, or check your baby's bottle. You ask the friend you trust. Proximity gets you the question, but competence gets you the ask. Your friend knows your strengths and weaknesses more than any others. Anyone could have answered that. This is social proof in reverse. We assume our average is the global average. This is the invisibility of the expert. If you can do it, you assume 8 billion others can. But your list is the social proof that you are the one being sought out. They asked you. By day 7, you'll have a list. It won't look like a master plan, it'll look like a mess of random favours. Now it's important to remember, 7 days is just a snapshot. You haven't wiped the whole mirror yet, but you have cleared enough of a patch of the steam to see a glimpse of the person looking back at you. Every single item on that list is an indicator of your value. But in its raw form, your brain is going to try to push it away. It's going to use all those mental gymnastics we talked about, like expert blindness and proximity bias, to avoid acknowledging what's right in front of you. So we're going to use a 3-step approach to bypass your brain's defensiveness. Step 1, the identity marker. For every question you've been asked, I want you to write down 3 identity traits. These words should summarise the value that the other person saw in you when they chose you to ask. We write 3 because it makes it much harder for your subconscious to trivialise the help. If you get stuck, that's okay, just move on to the next one. Here are a few examples to get you started. Where's my bag? Organisation, memory, dependability. Is this baby bottle the right temperature? Instinct, trust, nurturing. Does this look good on me? Taste, judgment, honesty. How do I fix this? Technical intuition, experience, resourcefulness. How do I tell my boss I'm unhappy? Diplomacy, empathy, perspective. What should I cook with these 3 ingredients? Creativity, logic, adaptability. Which phone should I buy? Research, analysis, clarity. As you work through this, you're going to see a lot of repetition. That's the point. The people around you are leaning on the same parts of your character over and over again. You aren't just being a friend, you're providing a specific set of identity traits that the world is hungry for. So now you have a long list of your many values. You can leave it here, as this is a huge step forward in starting to understand and find your own value. However, if you want to dive even further, there are a couple more things we can do. Now that we have our evidence, how do we find the gold in the mess? We use 2 final filters, the rule of 3 and the relief scale. Step 2, the rule of 3. This is your statistical proof. If you see a similar question popping up 3 times in a single week, or the same trait being called upon by 3 different people, that's not a coincidence. This is a signal. It's the world knocking on your door, telling you exactly which part of your brain they value most. Step 3, the relief scale. But what about the one-offs? The things that only happened once? For those we use the relief scale. Most of us make the mistake of measuring value by how much effort we put in. If it was easy for us, we think it's worthless. The relief scale flips that. Don't ask, how hard was the task for me? Ask, how stuck was the person before they asked me? Think of that new mother again. She doesn't need a physics lesson. She's experiencing high relief anxiety. She's frozen. When you give that 2-second check, you're providing the go signal. You are the person who allowed her to breathe, stop worrying, and move forward. To identify the skills that have the most potential, look at those times where you provided high relief. Highlight them. These are your superpowers. Whether it's a $150 boiler fix or a 3-second bottle check, the outcome is identical. You removed a hurdle that they couldn't jump over themselves. You are an unlocker. Once you see these everyday asks through the lens of the relief they provide, you realise these aren't just favours. They are the proven skills you've had all along. Most people spend their lives looking for their purpose in the clouds, hoping for a lightning bolt of inspiration. But your value isn't a bolt from the blue. It's the quiet hum of the help you're already giving. You don't need to become an expert, you just need to stop being a stranger to the one you already are. Your first step isn't to change your life or start a business. It's to carry a pen for 7 days and clear the steam off that mirror. And as you start, I want to hear from you. What was the very first thing you wrote down today? Maybe someone interrupted you while you were watching this video. No matter how small or obvious it felt to you, drop it in the comments below. I'll be jumping in to help you find the relief hidden inside those asks. Now go find your everyday asks. I'll be here when you're ready to see the person looking back at you.